As a flight instructor with over 9 years of riding experience, here's what I see on a motorcycle that most riders never learn. So in today's video, I'm going to introduce you to 6 critical elements which I've also learned from my own aviation experience that's going to instantly make newer riders upskill themselves and become better than 95% of other riders out there, plus keep you safe on the roads and give you something to work on every time that you head on out. Now, just a few months back earlier this year, I had a near miss with a car while I was out riding my motorcycle. So I was on a group ride with 3 of us. I was at the front and coming up to a blind corner. I was taking this corner and next thing I see is a white Mitsubishi overtaking a few other cars coming up right on this blind corner. Now, I reacted straight away and got to the inside of that corner while that car just tucked in as it was turning through the corner itself. So had I been in a car itself, it would have been a totally different story. So it was a good thing I was actually on my motorcycle because I used the correct technique, correct road lines, and cut in as soon as I saw that, and I gave myself that visibility on the road. So all the elements that I'm going to share with you today, these 6 critical elements, are what led to me being able to react proactively and anticipating what to do straight away in a scenario like this. So let's crack on into it. Now, the first critical element that newer riders need to learn is what I personally call the what if habit. So as a pilot, we're always running through contingencies in our mind while we're in the air. For example, if the engine cuts out, where are we going to put this aircraft down? Now, as a motorcyclist, we kind of do that subconsciously. You're thinking to yourself, you know, what if that car door opens? What if this person runs this red light? However, for newer riders, it comes up in the form of anxiety, and I want to let you know that it is a trainable professional skill that you can work on and improve. Now, in the case of the near miss that I had, I'm always constantly running this what if program in my mind while I'm on the motorcycle as well, and it actually attributed to me taking that corrective action, as I mentioned earlier. If I hadn't been focusing or running through one of these critical elements, would have been a different story. If you're running this what if program while you're motorcycling, you're always going to expect the unexpected, and that's a really, really key part in this, is making sure that you can expect anything out there and make sure you're ready enough to a degree that you can take action on it. Now, how can you actually incorporate this element into your own riding? Think of every scenario of what could happen when you're out riding. For example, oncoming traffic, maybe the driver could be distracted by his or her cell phone and swerve into your lane. What about corners? You're taking a sharp corner, there could be gravel that you don't see around this potentially sharp and blind corner that's sitting right in the middle of the road. How are you going to take action in order to avoid that? At an intersection, maybe someone runs a red light. How could you be ready yourself in order to avoid this person shooting through? You know, so you got to think of these scenarios and always think to yourself, what could you do or where could you position your bike in order to avoid a situation that could potentially come up, such as this. Now, the biggest thing is just be ready to take action when required. Take that action and get yourself out of danger. Now, the second critical element to learning to ride as a newer rider is scanning pattern. As pilots, we run a constant scan from eyes outside of the aircraft back to inside the aircraft to check out instruments. And we're constantly doing this back and forth, and we're not letting our eyes sit idle. I also do the same when I'm riding myself. When I'm on the motorcycle, I'm having a constant scan, looking out ahead and what in front of me and what's out to my side. Now, one of the big issues that new riders face is that new riders quite often fixate on things, and this is a big no-no because, let me give you an example. You could be fixating on a car in front of you, directly in front of you, and not paying attention to maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 cars ahead of them in the train. And if that car at the very front slams on its brakes, you're going to catch that early because you're going to see that ripple effect come back down to you, and you can proactively prepare in order to put yourself in the best position not to rear end another car. Same with a corner. If you're coming up to a corner, coming in too hot, new riders will often fixate on where they don't want to go. So you'll look at something exactly where you don't want to go, and because you're looking there, you're going to follow that item or whatever you're looking at into potentially a ditch, into a fence, who knows what it is, but that's the danger of target fixation. Riding the Yamaha R3, as you can see in the footage here, taking these corners, what my eyes are doing is my eyes are ahead. I'm looking at obviously where the upcoming corners are and positioning myself where I need to be in order to take those corners the safest way possible. I also have traffic. If there is traffic, I'll be looking in front of that traffic and seeing what they're doing as well, not just exactly what the car in front of me is doing. I'm always trying to keep ahead of the motorcycle, and as pilots we also do that for aircraft. We always keep ahead of the plane. All this helps me to anticipate and actually direct the bike where I want it to go, and the cockpit environment reinforced this for me. So how could you actually incorporate this element into your own riding? So in order to incorporate this into your riding, practice a constant scan. So don't fixate on whatever is in front of you. Look ahead of what's coming up. Keep ahead of the bike, and you do that through your scanning. So scan ahead, scan to your sides. There could potentially be any side streets coming up, and someone could be zipping straight through. With this, it's all going to help with anticipation. So if anything does come up, you're going to be ready to take action. Now, the third critical element is energy management. In aviation, we don't waste our energy from what we've got on the aircraft, and this is speed, altitude, and momentum. And the same applies for motorcycling as well. You don't want to waste that energy that you have, especially when you're on a beginner and low CC motorcycle, for example, the Yamaha R3. What you want to focus on is taking the correct line for corners. This is in terms of carrying speed through the corner, and also safety in terms of road visibility. Also your braking points as well. You don't want to be braking in the corner itself when you're at your highest, most lean angle. That's not a safe thing to do. You want to do your braking, primarily majority of it, before the corner. You can do a little bit of trail braking into the corner, but if you're not familiar with that yet, you can learn that as you get more experienced with your riding. Next is also your throttle input. So how smooth are you with that throttle? Where are you actually using your throttle? Are you constantly jerking? Are you adding power, then having a brake, adding power, having a brake? You want to make sure you're smooth with the bike, and that comes in terms of throttle input as well. Now you might be wondering why this is actually important. Well, if you see any kind of top level racer or anyone who's the best at their art or craft or whatever, they're generally always smooth, and smoothness is key, and that's super important when you're motorcycling. Being smooth will make you a safer rider. Being smooth will make you a faster rider as well. So smoothness is key, and that all flows on from energy management of the motorcycle. So to incorporate this into your own riding, just as I mentioned before, you want to do, for example, your cornering. You want to take the correct lines. Make sure you start out wide, you can see around the corner. This is going to be the most safe for you as well. You don't want to be using racing lines on the street. That's a no-go. It's not what you want. Your braking, do most of it before the corner itself. Leave yourself room for error. And then when it comes to throttle application as well, once you're beginning to lean the motorcycle upright after a corner, you can start really adding in that throttle. Now, don't add that throttle once you're at full lean. You're going to be asking probably to low side the motorcycle because you may lose traction. So with energy management, you want everything smooth and controlled. Okay, the fourth critical element is workload management. Now, student pilots get overwhelmed because they try to do everything at once, and there is a direct parallel to motorcycling too. So new riders, you've got a lot on your plate when you first start, and that's handling, actually using your skills on the motorcycle in terms of brake, clutch, counter steering, moving the bike, noticing traffic, observing what's around you. Where do you have to go? Where do you have to stop? Can you stop carefully? And so forth. It's a never-ending battle when you're new. It feels like there's just so much to learn and so much to take in, and that is a direct corresponding thing that I see with my own students for flying. As pilots, we are trained to prioritize and shed tasks. This allows us not to panic in case something sketchy occurs, for example, a near miss in the air, or if we have a failure of some form. We can keep a clear head and we can manage the problem at that current time without going into a full-blown panic. Now, how can you incorporate this element into your own riding? Well, if you're a completely new rider and you're on this video because you want to learn some tips, well, just focus on the basics to start with. Just one thing at a time is the best advice I can give you. So that would be, for example, if you're new, just getting on the bike, getting comfortable sitting on it, just feeling the weight between your legs. Next would be throttle control. Just smoothly adding that throttle, coming to a stop, learning how to brake the motorcycle as well. So using those brakes, using the throttle, using the clutch, slowly changing gears. If you drive a car, you will remember how it was when you first learned to drive, and it's the same thing with a motorcycle. Just break it right down into its steps on what you need to know at that current time. After you actually know the basics, let's say for example you've been riding for a little bit now it's all about kind of what's outside of you. You know how to handle the motorcycle now, so it would be your scanning. Where's your positioning on the road? What are you looking ahead of you? Are you looking off to the side? Are you anticipating what could happen in your current situation, and so on? Okay, you've now made it to the fifth critical element, and that fifth critical element is complacency is the real killer. Now, in aviation, there are numerous reports where there's experienced pilots who got too comfortable, too complacent, and ended up in an accident. And same with motorcycling. Now, the Yamaha R3 specifically is known as a beginner motorcycle. So a rider might hop on it or borrow one, and because it's a low displacement bike, they already know how to do all the basics. They're used to the power, might be a lot less than what they actually used to. So they switch off mentally and just get complacent and comfortable on it. Now, familiarity is what gets pilots killed. Maybe a pilot has done a certain route over and over, done it in many different weather conditions, and gets a little bit overconfident, and then it just takes that one time for something unexpected to happen, something to go wrong, because this person is not treating that same flight with respect as they would, for example, a more challenging flight or something they haven't quite done before. And this also occurs in motorcycling as well. When the rider gets complacent, this is when it is most dangerous. I approach every flight personally with the same respect, no matter how many times I've actually done it. Same with my riding. If it's the same route, the same commute, I treat it with the same respect, because you never know what could happen out there. And this relates once again to that story I mentioned at the beginning. I've done that road plenty of times, but it just takes that one time. You've got that different variable and you need to react in a different way. And all these critical elements is what helps keep you safe. So how could you now incorporate this element into your riding? Well, first of all, just treat every ride that you do with the same respect. Doesn't matter where you're going, how far you're going, how short it is, treat it with the same respect on every single ride. Stay vigilant, don't switch off mentally. Being aware of everything around you and of what you're doing yourself is the number one thing that's going to keep you really safe on the roads out there. Now, the final sixth critical element is threat assessment before you even move on the motorcycle. Before every flight, a pilot is already building a mental picture of what could go wrong and where the outs are. Before I pull out of a car park, I'm doing the same thing on the bike. I'm reading the road surface, noting the angle of the sun, clocking the intersection ahead. I'm making sure I'm doing all these things so that I can actually just keep myself safe. Most newer riders don't actually do this because they're excited to ride. Now, how can you actually incorporate this element into your own riding? Well, while you're sitting on the bike and before you pull out of your garage or the car park, think of what immediate threats there are just around you and what you can anticipate just a little bit further down. It does sound boring and not any fun to do this, and it just takes time out of your day when you want to just get on the bike and go. But trust me, if you can just be aware of this every time you sit out before you go, or sit on the bike before you go, it's going to help keep your mind primed and proactive rather than reactive for things that could happen, and that's the unexpected. So you want to expect the unexpected. Now, there's no better way to learn and incorporate all these key critical elements than using the Yamaha R3. Now, there's plenty of good beginner motorcycles out there. However, the R3 is kind, it's forgiving, and there's plenty of power when you first get started, and it's flickable, and it just does what you want it to do. So make sure you incorporate these on your motorcycle, have fun out there, enjoy motorcycling and the experience it has to offer, but just be vigilant out there. Make sure you're always aware and being proactive on what you can do to keep yourself safe on the roads. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this next one on the truth about the Yamaha R3 if you haven't yet watched it. And we'll see you guys all on the next video. Thanks for watching.